pre-sins have been forgiven through the Confiteor, theoretically at least. And so why this continual need to say, forgive me of our sins and be worthy to enter into the Holy of Holies? Why this repetition? And the reason for it is to remind us to be humble, to remind us of where we came from. We don't get prideful. Pride is one of the 7 deadly sins. And what is humility? Well, St. Thomas teaches that humility is the objectivity towards the self. It's the recognition of our proper place, our real place in the order of nature, the order of the cosmos, the order of celestial beings, our relative celestial beings, where we stand in comparison to that. And we find that we ourselves are material beings. We find ourselves as being therefore contingent beings, God being the only necessary being. And hopefully I'll have someone on the show soon. He is going to illuminate certain Aristotelian principles that might make this more concrete for some people who are interested in that. But at its core, man has no ability to give himself essence or existence, or quiddity, being as it's sometimes called. We can certainly, you can think that you're trying to keep yourself alive as long as you can. You can eat, you can drink, you can take care of your body, you can exercise, and this keeps you alive in the sense that we have motion, we have local motion, and our soul is still completely attached to the body. We haven't received our particular judgment yet that sustains us in life, you could say, and we might have, what seems to be control over that, but we have no control over the existence. We cannot tell every atom, every piece of matter that composes us to remain in existence. And this is something that is very difficult to comprehend because we've never seen anything go out of existence, but there is no contradiction to doing so. There is nothing that would explain why something couldn't go out of existence, or frankly could go into existence. This is one of the great problems that science is incapable of answering, is why there is something, and why that something continues to exist instead of nothing. And the answer to that is obviously God. He is the one who is sustaining everything in existence. And if it, for whatever reason, God were to, if this is impossible, of course, but if it was possible for God to cease existing, everything would stop existing with it. God is everywhere at all times, actualizing it, keeping it in existence. Everything, everyone. He is the only thing that is absolute. And so to be humble is to recognize that we are nothing, that we are contingent beings, and it's not just because we're sinners. That's like another layer you can add on top of it, but it's just the fact that we aren't God. We aren't like God. Only God is God. We are living as people who are dependent on God. And the more we live with God as this central principle, and we view ourselves in respect to Him, that is to say, we are humble, we have humility, we have objectivity towards the self, we recognize our place as inferior to God and subordinate to God, the more we will be awakened from the great illusion that I think most people in this material consumptionist paradigm seem to have lost themselves. Too many people, it seems, are being taken up in what you could probably call like the Matrix. Have you ever seen the Matrix, the movie? Too many people are still plugged in. Their entire existence is being so determined by their appetitive appetites, their material desires, that they are living a life of illusion. All of these things are transitory. That is what they seem to not be able to possess. That these things are transitory, and their life too will be transitory, and they will spend eternity being tortured by the very thing that they try to seek happiness in. They think they know what's going on. They might think they wake up every day, but really they have no idea. They're living a contingent reality. Everything is like vapor and smoke. It has no quiddity without God. And now that isn't to say that they are being able to live independent of God. No one is independent of God. But when we recognize our dependence on God, when we are able to reposition ourselves I remember getting into a discussion with someone quite recently about geocentrism versus heliocentrism. If we're able to recognize that, and this is an analogy, I'm not making any scientific claims here, if we were to acknowledge that we are dependent on the sun in order to revolve around it, and that creates years, and our rotation creates days, or what have you, once we are able to recognize this, then certain scientific principles would come from that, recognizing our dependence on the sun for sustenance. In the same way, we have to recognize that God is at the center of everything. And when we put God first as this ultimate principle behind all our actions, our thoughts, and our very being, that is when we are humble. That is when we are able to express humility. This isn't to say we abase ourselves. It isn't to say we engage in like a slave ethic. It's just a proper understanding of the self. And when we do that, we're able to we're kind of waking up from this illusion. We're able to see this, like the strings. We're able to see we're able to unplug from the matrix